Hello listeners, Jordan here. I just want to let you know that you can listen to Nighttime early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Include it with Prime.
You are listening to the Nighttime Podcast.
Hello listeners, I got something a little different for you tonight. I'm sure every one of you out there heard a story of someone claiming to see the image of Jesus Christ or his mother Mary appearing in an unusual place. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if a good-sized chunk of us had an example of this kind of thing playing out in our own respective parts of the world. I'm a member of that group. In the past, I've covered the appearance of Jesus on a Tim Hortons that took over my hometown for a period of time back when I was in high school.
Many of a certain age will remember when a coffee shop in Cape Breton became the site of an international holy pilgrimage. Some saw the image of Jesus on the wall of Tim Hortons there.
And after living through that, I've always paid special attention to these mundane miracles, typically made up of reflecting light and imaginative minds. Tonight, I'm going to scratch my curious itch by exploring this phenomenon. And as you're soon going to hear, Jesus and his mother Mary are thought to appear much more often than you expect.
I think that I found Jesus on a Cheeto, as funny as it sounds.
Tonight, in this episode of Nighttime, my pal LJ and I are going to review a collection of stories concerning the unexpected appearance of Jesus Christ. So grab your rosaries, splash some holy water on your face, and let's get into it.
I looked at that and I thought, oh my, that looks like Jesus on the cross. I mean, it was just like, wow.
People listening to Nighttime are going to be surprised when they hear you talk. They're going to think my intro is running a little late because, LJ, you've been the voice of the intro of the Nighttime podcast for the last, 2 or 3 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I just actually didn't think about that. And here I am.
It's you. Here you are in the flesh.
Yeah, how did we come about doing that? You just asked me one day.
Yeah, I was like, I need someone with a nice professional sounding voice to start the show before I start mumbling.
Well, that's pushing it a bit.
I know, one LJ. I imagine this episode is probably going to be heard by both Nighttime listeners and listeners of your show. So let's start with quick introductions. For people listening to you on the Nighttime podcast, LJ, who are you and what are you up to? What do you do?
Well, I'm one of the hosts of Dystopian Simulation Radio, which is it's kind of paranormal. We cover a lot of things, paranormal, a little bit unsolved cases. There's some aliens and cryptids sprinkled. I say sprinkled, it's kind of heavy, but
poured over.
I do that with my best friend Chris. We've been best friends since we were teenagers. We try to take it seriously, but we also just joke around and laugh a lot, and it's a lot of fun.
And I met you through Gen Y, I think, or no, the way we met, you and I, was you had featured the disappearance of Emma Filipoff in a book you published about missing persons cases. And that led us to connect because I was covering her story at that time.
Yeah, I don't know how we actually first got in contact.
I have no idea. The internet.
It's a mystery.
Coming on the next episode.
Yeah.
Well, let's segue into our discussion here. We both cover supernatural, paranormal stories on occasion. Let me just ask you, have you ever seen a ghost?
Okay, so this is a bit of a weird answer. I may have seen a ghost. But I'm not sure.
Okay.
I was in Indonesia and I had played in a punk band. We did a tour there and I stayed afterwards with a local guy who I was friends with. And I got really ill while I was there. I still don't know what was wrong with me, but it was the worst flu of my life. I lost so much weight. I was sweating so bad and I couldn't eat. And they went out, he went out one day. He lived in a house with his mum. It was his house, but she lived there with him. And they went out one day, and because there was a bit of crime in the area, they said, okay, we're gonna lock all the doors, all the windows. They had these metal things over the outside of the windows and doors. And I went, okay, sure. If there's a fire, I'll probably go up in flames and ash, but whatever, that's fine. I don't care anymore at this point. So they went out, and I knew they had a cleaner. They paid someone to clean for them. And when I was lying in this bedroom, they had a sliding wooden door, and I'd slid it shut, and I was just laying on this mattress, and I heard the door slide open. So I said like, "Oh, hey, are you back?" and something, and there was no reply. So I turned around to like look over my shoulder, and there was, this is kind of mean, but it was scary at the time. It was like an old lady with really long kind of black matted hair, and she poked her head into the room. Like her hand was on the door and she poked her head round like she didn't walk in or anything. And I said, I just thought it was the cleaner because I'd never met her. And I said, "Oh, sorry, I'm like sick. I'm, a friend of Danny, who was the guy who lived there." And she just slammed the sliding door shut. And then I heard like footsteps go down the stairs, and that was it. And then a couple of hours later, my friend came back and I said, "Oh, I think I scared your cleaner." She like opened the door and I was just laying in there looking ill and gaunt, and she kind of ran away. And then he asked me to describe her, and I said she was quite old, probably 60 something. And he was like, "Our cleaner is 25." And when I told him this, like him and his mom just went completely pale. They had like some medicine for me, and the mom like nearly dropped it.
Oh my
And she
goodness.
was like, "Who?" And they searched the entire house, and they thought like it was someone who was like hiding in the house when they went out. They searched it top to bottom and didn't find anybody.
Wow.
So that is my maybe I saw a ghost. I'm not sure story.
Yeah, it was either a ghost or like someone was robbing the place, but when they saw the shape you were in, they're like, no, I'm gonna go on to
They
the
felt
next
guilty.
house. Like, we'll try the next place. This is way too weird.
But seriously, that is like it that scares like I have a chill now, like telling you it. That scares me
Weird.
so
Well,
much.
that sounds really freaky. You were so sick, like, could you have been on death's door and literally like that was, we see the Grim Reaper as this like hooded figure. Maybe it's just this like kind of disheveled older lady.
Well, that makes me feel a lot better, Jordan. Thank you.
Uh, I have never seen a ghost, but I do have a story of something ghost related that can bring us into our topic tonight. Is because
Okay.
when I'll take you back to say it's probably around 1994, 1995, 1996, that kind of era when where I grew up in Cape Breton, which is an island in Nova Scotia in Canada. I was in high school at that period of time, and there was a ghost sighting in my town at a coffee shop, a Tim Hortons coffee shop, that got international attention and is really the genesis of our talk tonight. What ended up happening was like Tim Hortons, if people listening in Canada, they know what this is. It's a popular Canadian coffee shop. And there's one in Cape Breton in a town called North Sydney, not far from where I lived, where the appearance of Jesus Christ, literally the face of Christ, was seen on like the brick wall on the exterior of the building, just underneath a light.
For a couple of memorable weeks in the fall of 1998, the Tim Hortons in Bredor was basically a roadside shrine. People pilgrimaging from as far away as the United States, hoping to catch a holy glimpse.
I can remember thinking at the time that you go through the drive-thru and order a double and possibly forgiveness.
I remember everybody parking all over here and over at the Lick a Chick, and everybody going up touching the wall.
When people started seeing this and talking about it, word spread so fast that within literally 3 or 4 days, they were blocking streets off because it turned into like religious Woodstock in and around this area. People were coming from all over the country to pitch tents or sit by the side of the road or go up to the building and touch the bricks. I did an episode on my show on Nighttime telling the story of Jesus Christ at Tim Hortons, so I won't go too in depth with it. But this whole event as that played out was Canada's like most intense example of what I've now learned is called a theophany, which is the appearance of a religious deity or figure in an everyday object. But in the end, with the Tim Hortons situation, what ended up solving the problem is they changed the light bulb, and when the light bulb was swapped out, the reflection no longer existed, and everybody just kind of quietly left. But that growing up with that experience and kind of seeing the madness that surrounded Jesus' face appearing on that building, I've always been drawn to these stories of people seeing Jesus on toast or his reflection in the mirror or whatever else. But have you ever heard of anything like this happening in your part of the world?
I actually have. Um, I went through the Catholic education system, so I was sort
Oh,
of raised Catholic. So
oh, so
I,
you're in a Catholic school.
yeah, I went to Catholic school, believe it
Oh,
or not.
weird.
I guess you didn't. You look a bit shocked.
I'm just surprised because,
I know everyone's always surprised it's really old school, but
yeah.
I did. I went to Catholic school, Catholic all the way. So I've heard about things like that. I've heard about also on the same kind of topic of the, statues crying blood and all kinds of things. Yeah. So I have heard of it. And I know there's a Jesus toaster where you can deliberately burn Jesus into your toast, which is
Yeah,
pretty cool.
but that's a like a prank. We're talking about the real deal tonight. When
I
when
know.
when you just one more question. I got to go back to your
Hmm.
experiences with Catholic school. When you heard these stories in Catholic school, though, was it like nobody was laughing though, right? Like that was it like believers who were like, the Jesus statue had, tears?
Well, some people were very religious in that school, and others just went there because it had a better education than the other schools surrounding it.
Okay.
So you had people who would kind of laugh, and you had people who took it really, really seriously.
Okay.
So yeah, um,
Interesting. Interesting. Well,
yeah.
I think as we go through the stories tonight, we're going to hear both sides of it as well. And I just want to be clear,
Hmm.
like I was raised Catholic, but I'm not a religious person in any way.
Oh.
But I have nothing against people who are like staunch believers and
Mhm.
experience something like the stories we're going to talk about and find kind of like meaning in it. Nothing against them.
Yeah,
As an outsider, someone not involved in this, I just find them fascinating, and there are so many
me
of them.
too. Yeah. No disrespect intended at all looking at these stories. They're just very interesting stories. I know you've accumulated a lot of them. You got really into this.
I went down such a deep rabbit hole. I found so
Yeah.
many stories of Jesus and his mother and the devil appearing on everyday objects that I
Oh,
like. We could do 25 episodes of this, but this one will be the greatest hits, the best of.
okay.
Before we get into it, though, a couple definitions. So a theophany, this is a word a lot of people wouldn't know, but a theophany is an encounter with a deity that manifests in an observable, intangible form. So a theophany is when someone sees Jesus or the Virgin Mary or the devil or any kind of religious deity in
Like an apparition?
an apparition, yeah, and just in something you can
Okay.
observe. But we can go a bit further.
Hmm.
Christophany is the appearance of Jesus, and a Marian apparition is a supernatural appearance of Mary, the Mother of God. So throughout the episode tonight, we're going to be hearing mainly of Christophanies and Marian apparitions, but Jesus is definitely the star of this episode because it seems the majority of the stories that I find, that's who people were seeing. I broke up the stories I collected in a couple segments. Let's start with Jesus appearing on food.
Food is always a good place to start, I think.
Let's start with a 2008 story of a Missouri woman who believes she found Jesus in all places but on a Cheeto. This I have a couple news articles here, and since you're the one with the amazing voice, why don't you read the story of Jesus?
I have a very annoying voice, but I'll take the compliment and yeah, let's go. So, a Missouri woman says she has found Jesus Christ in a bag of Cheetos. On July 22nd of 2008, 50-year-old Kelly Ramey was driving home after riding horses. She stopped for a snack at an arena convenience store and chose a bag of Cheetos. I was eating while I was driving, she recalled. When I took the Cheeto out, it felt different. So I looked at it and immediately came to mind that it was Jesus on the cross. She sought verification from others that the Cheeto indeed resembled Jesus on the cross. I brought it home to show my husband and see what he thought. My husband agreed it looked like Jesus, and he took it to work, and everybody there thought it looked like Jesus. Ramey said she sees significance in the Cheeto. I'm a spiritual person. I'm Catholic. I pray every day. I believe in God. I feel in my heart that it has to do with reminding people of joy, laughter, and paying attention to the little things in life. Raimi is keeping her Cheeto in a safe deposit box and is considering ways to safely display it to the public.
Shame on you for laughing at her putting this Cheeto in a safety deposit box.
I'm sorry.
For people listening, I did find the photo, and yeah, it does kind of look like like a Cheeto in the shape of like Jesus on a cross. I just think to look at like to see that connection that quickly when you're popping Cheetos in your mouth. When I'm eating Cheetos or chips, what I'm looking for is the ones where it's like kind of like two of them stuck together, and you know you're going to get extra crunch.
Yep.
I don't think the image of Jesus would pop out to me, but it does for people, because we just heard this story in 2008 of Kelly Raimi finding Jesus on a Cheeto. And that article referred to it as well. It said, or maybe it wasn't that article, but one of the articles that I found referred to it as cheesus. When I Googled that term, I found another article that described like the same thing 1 year later. I'm going to play you this one as a bit of a news clip here. This is a 2009 story. So 1 year after the Missouri woman found Jesus on the cross, a couple from Dallas claimed to have found Jesus also in a bag of cheesies. The blessed munchie was discovered by Dan and Sarah Bell inside a pack of Cheetos they bought at a gas station for 99 cents. This snack version of Jesus stands about 2 inches tall, and rather than being Christ on the cross, he seems to be in a position of prayer.
I stopped by, filled up with gas, and, was in there. I bought some snacks.
Inside a 99-cent bag of Cheetos, Sarah and Dan Bell found something unique.
I was putting them in my hand and eating them out of my hand, and I had eaten most of the ones out of my hand, and this one was still left laying there, and I said, oh my gosh, look at this. It really looks like a person in a robe praying.
I just looked over, and I went, wow, it looks like a praying Jesus.
Our nickname is Cheeses.
The Cheeses is about 2 inches tall. Despite missing a right arm, the Bells see a body, hair, robe, even a tiny face.
It is a reminder of our blessings from God, but primarily I think it's a funny Cheeto.
Cheeses has shown up before in Houston, Missouri, and on YouTube.
The Bells Cheeto ended up front page on the Preston Hollow People newspaper. The big question, what to do with it now?
My first reaction was, let's put this on eBay. And then we said, how much do you think we should ask for it?
It could be 25 cents, it could be $25. Thing is, if it's only 25 cents, we're probably just going to eat it.
For now, the North Texas family is keeping it in a plastic box.
We go from keeping him in a safety deposit box to these people, they're just putting him in a little plastic box with looks like a handkerchief underneath him to keep him safe. But what did you think of that image?
It kind of looked like he was back in the manger.
Oh, like in the little box?
Yeah. The little baby bed, yeah. Back in the manger. I love the way he was like, could be 25 cents, could be $25.
Yeah. They were lighthearted about it, and she even said herself, it does look like Jesus praying, but it probably is just like a silly looking Cheeto.
She did say she would eat him if he was of low value, which
if it was
I don't find very Christian.
Yeah, well, we'll get into some stories as we go of people who definitely try to cash in. What I wonder with these stories is, how does the news find out about it? So this couple here that we just heard, the second Jesus Cheeto couple, it didn't seem like they were putting themselves out there. So how would the news show up with a camera at their house? Tell us about the Cheeto. How did you find the Cheeto? What a bizarre experience.
They must have contacted them, right? Surely they must have contacted them, or maybe they showed it to a bunch of people and somebody from their friend group contacted the news and was like, you've got to see this. But it must have been a slow news day.
I guess, but there are so many of these stories that it can't always be a slow news day. I think, I don't know what it is, but they get a lot of coverage. Each one of these stories that we just heard about the Cheetos, I found 5 or 10 different news outlets covering this. So at least for that day, it was, big news.
Were they just local news stations? Right?
Yeah.
I suppose they cover a lot of they cover dog shows and rabbit racing. I don't know what they do, but
Rabbit
local news
racing.
covers a lot of.
But when I guess if if it is a slow news day and you're looking for assignment and you hear like there's someone down the street or across town who thinks that they found Jesus on a Cheeto, I would be like, I volunteer myself to go over there with a camera.
I'd be there in a heartbeat too. I want to see the cheeses.
The cheeses. That's 2 stories about Cheetos. Let's move on to a different food type. How about that?
Sure.
The most popular food to feature the face of Jesus Christ is easily the tortilla. I found so many stories of tortillas. So let's just jump right in here because we got a trio, I think a trilogy of them to bang out.
All right.
David Sandoval sat down for dinner in 2012 when he saw something unexpected. The face of Jesus was looking back at him from one of his mother's homemade tortillas. I passed it to my mom and she said, "Oh my God, it's him."
One man says it is the last place he expected to ever find the image of Jesus. But sure enough, there it was, staring at him from a tortilla.
Action 7 News reporter Todd Unger is here with a story you will see only on 7.
This all happened on the first night of Lent last week, and David Sandoval is quick to point out he's always been a believer. He just couldn't quite believe what he was actually seeing. If he saw this image, what would Jesus do? He might just say, "Hey, that looks an awful lot like me."
That made it even more astonishing that it was, the first day of Lent.
David Sandoval was about to chow down on an Ash Wednesday supper last week.
Passed it to my mom. Same response for her, "Oh my God."
When he noticed one of his mom's hand-baked tortillas featuring a likeness unlike any other.
Mashed potatoes, gravy, chicken, and fresh tortillas. And
Jesus.
Out Jesus came.
An exact match? No, but David posted a photo to Facebook, and as so often happens these days, the digital image took on a life of its own.
Comments started coming in, likes, all that stuff. Everybody's been able to see it, and they agree, and they call it a miracle.
A sign from above? Maybe, maybe not. But considering the time of year,
New Mexico has always been known to have interesting things happen during the Lent time.
David says nothing would surprise him, especially if it involves that higher power.
So for people who don't see the image that we're reacting to here, it looks like a tortilla with just a generic looking burn mark, I guess, or grill mark, as if they didn't have quite enough oil on the pan. But if you do look at these, you do see like what resembles a face. Like these people aren't completely out to lunch. But to say it looks like Jesus versus Elvis is a bit of a stretch.
I mean, I think it's the whole like pareidolia thing, isn't it? Like just seeing things that resemble like 2 eyes and a nose and a mouth maybe. But I did laugh really hard when I saw it. And also, I feel like the picture of it, I thought it was going to be way bigger, but when he took it out of the little box that he had it in, it was really tiny.
Yeah,
it was like less than a centimeter, I think, that Jesus face. So he was like, it really caught his eye.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. As these stories play out, we hear about how they're maintaining the object. What it seems like what he did was he kept it in like a little, I call it like a ornate wooden box. It's not like the box you'd put a ring in, but maybe you'd put a bit of jewelry in there. He had like this little box. It looked like he had a bunch of like tissue balls. What are those things called?
Yeah.
Cotton balls.
Like a cotton pads.
He had cotton balls, and it seems like he threw away the rest of the tortilla, but he just cut out the little burnt part and had it sitting there.
I also have a bit of a confession to make, actually, Jordan.
Oh my, please.
So I'd like looked at a bunch of these like Jesus face appearing in foods. And today I was like, oh, you know what? Like people probably just like fake this so they can get a bit of attention online. I was being skeptical. I'm sorry. I know it's mean. So this is really sad that I did this, but I had some leftover tortilla bread and I was like, it can't be that difficult. So I actually tried to fake my own Jesus in a tortilla for you.
Okay.
I'm telling you, it's not easy. It's not easy.
Well,
I got something slightly close to looking like a man, but it didn't look anywhere near as good as these sort of like the actual ones that you found. So I'm thinking there's something in this. I was skeptical, but
purebreds. Well,
it's not easy.
What you need to do is you just need to get something that looks close enough. Then you take a photo of it and put it online, and that's when the magic happens. Like I think
you're right.
Like in this story, that's what happened. Is this guy? It's like, yeah, it kind of looks like it, and he puts the picture up, and then all of a sudden, the whole neighborhood's at his door praying. That's
Yeah.
you got to do.
I'm telling you though, it's not easy. I tried at least 4 different stale tortilla breads that I had.
And all you
that
got
needed
was like
to be trashed.
all you got
All
was
I
your
got was just
smoke alarm
burns.
going off.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you may not have had success doing this, but a lot of people have with tortillas. Let's move on to another story. Also in 2012, we're just going a couple states over. The last story we just heard was in New Mexico, but also on a tortilla in 2012, this time in Texas. Jesus appeared again. Here's a brief news report about Rene Canto's discovery. This is an interesting one.
A San Antonio man says he found Jesus on his breakfast tortilla. Rene Cantu thinks the burn marks resemble the Son of God. He keeps it in a special box and is trying to preserve it by covering it with transparent glue. Cantu claims the tortilla has turned his bad luck around. For example, he says he tends to win lottery games when he takes his tortilla to the store with him.
That's a very short clip, but what it says is pretty fantastic. Not only does he find Jesus on a tortilla, but he is now, I don't know if they got this wrong, but they're saying he's now winning the lottery. I wonder if they mean like scratch tickets, because I feel like
I thought they said that he was taking it with him to try and win the lottery.
no, it said like he's winning the lottery if he takes it.
Okay.
But
just wishful thinking.
yeah, I'm thinking they must mean like scratch tickets or something, and maybe he's getting like, free tickets or something. Because I do feel like if he was actually winning the lottery, someone would have looked into this, and the Pope would have shown up there. For people who haven't seen this news clip, and I'm going to put up links to them in the episode. The guy who had the tortilla, who found it, while the news reporter is explaining what happened, I don't know if you've caught this, but he's just like, he has this crazy smirk on his face and he doesn't say anything. He seems like he's really enjoying the camera being on him with his tortilla that he's covered in clear glue.
Well, he's rich. He's won the lottery, Jordan.
He's got a lot to laugh about. Just like, I've got
But
it made.
that Jesus on the tortilla, to me, that looked the least like Jesus so far, I think.
It didn't look like anything to me.
Yeah.
I paused it. I
Yeah.
tried to look at it from different angles. To me, it looked just like a scorched tortilla and a kind of
I
stoned
didn't see
looking guy.
Jesus. Yeah.
And then to encase the thing in clear glue, that just seems like the worst way to try to preserve it.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you would. I think the little the guy before, the guy who put it in a trinket box with the little cotton buds, maybe one of those little like silica packets or something.
Yeah, just to keep it dry, but to just be like, oh, here's clear glue. What could go wrong? If it's bringing you lottery wins, man, there's got to be better.
Probably killed the mojo with that.
Let's go on to our last Jesus on a tortilla story. Maybe we found the best for last, because this involves an 80-year-old man named Ernesto Garza, who found the face of Jesus on a tortilla in Texas in 2013. And of all places, he found it at an adult daycare. Have you ever heard that term before, adult daycare?
Do you mean like an old people's home?
I'm guessing. They refer to it as an adult daycare in the news article, and I found a couple other news articles that refer to it as, like, by the name of the center. I can't think of what the name of it is, but by the such and such adult daycare. And I'm thinking it must be like
I've never
like
heard of
assisted
that.
living or seniors home or something. But let's get into the story regardless. This is what went down in Beeville, Texas in 2013.
So we turn now to an unusual sighting on, of all things, a breakfast taco. One Beeville man convinced that his flour tortilla contains an image of Jesus.
He is. He's convinced. Mike De Silva says it looks like Jesus up close, and there's a lot more than meets the eye. Mike De Silva went to Beeville today to get this story. You're almost convinced too.
That's right, and I know what you're thinking, really, Jesus in a taco. But while at first it might sound a bit out there, maybe even crazy, take a listen to the story and then you might just come to a different conclusion. Take a look. This is the image Ernesto Garza saw Wednesday morning. Garza is a regular at the La Amistad Adult Daycare Center, where on Wednesdays they serve tacos for breakfast. Now, normally Garza goes up to the kitchen counter and gets his own tacos, but on this particular morning, a 5-year-old child named Serenity brought them to him. Garza began to eat when he noticed the image on the flour tortilla. Astonished, he began to show others.
And I seen it, and then my friend sits right next to me here. He saw. I showed it to him to make sure that I was seeing the picture. And I said, yeah. And then I called her, and she got it. She saw it. She's the third person that saw it.
I didn't really notice the image until he kind of like pointed it out to me, and then I kind of like, okay. My first reaction was like, Jesus.
Now, the daycare center is a faith-based center that is deeply religious. They have mottos on the walls that they try and live by about the golden rule and serving humanity. And get this, there's even a serenity prayer on the wall. Now remember, Serenity is the name of the young girl that brought Ernesto the taco.
We truly feel that the presence is always here, but something like this happens, it's always just a reminder that he is here with us and that we're truly blessed.
Everyone at the center believes this is a blessing and a sign from God that they're doing good work and to continue, and that God is with them. And I think it looks like Jesus up close.
Well, far be it from us to question anyone's faith.
That one's interesting because the reporter seemed to be a believer.
You know, there was one lady in that clip who said, my reaction was Jesus. And I have to say, mine was also Jesus, but not for the same reason.
Yeah, like not the literal person.
Oh my gosh, like not to be mean, but that was kind of alarming.
Mm-hmm.
Like that scared me a little bit. I don't think that one was Jesus, Jordan.
Well, on the tortilla or taco, as they were referring to it, it was, I could see like the shape of a face, but I thought it was kind of scary. It was all like the taco was all kind of scorched. So whoever's cooking at that adult daycare needs more butter on their pan or something. But there was kind of like it was, to me, it resembled the devil more than anything else, or just
Michael Myers in a wig.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
Yeah,
it was scary.
But I think there was so much to the story. It happened in a religious place. The girl serving it was this young child named Serenity. It was so picturesque. But I think what takes away a whole bunch of points for me is the fact that it happened in a religious place. It's almost like, yeah, there's this group of UFO investigators, and one of them sees a UFO. It's like, of course you guys did. That's kind of how I feel about.
You want to see.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way about like all the religious people having breakfast, and one of them sees Jesus on their tortilla. It's like, sure.
Oh my gosh, I think that was my favorite one so far, just because it scared me. And I also like the way that once again they'd sort of ripped around the tortilla to just preserve the Jesus parts, and they'd also laid him on a napkin in a little mini Tupperware box.
Well, it looked like it was like a takeout food container. It's and
he looked like he was lounging in a bed or something. Demonic vacation or something.
Yeah. Well, if you think that was your favorite, we got some big ones coming up because we're kind of ramping up to the good ones. We're going to move away from tortilla to another type of food. This will be our last food story, but this is going to be the first time we're kind of introduced to the concept of someone monetizing and capitalizing on the fervor that surrounds the theophany, or the appearance of Christ. This is going to be a 2005 story. It's going to involve a pierogi, and it's going to take place in Toledo, Ohio. Donna and Tommy Lee, that's his name, but that's also the drummer for Motley Crue. But different guy, different Tommy Lee.
Boo.
Yeah. Donna and Tommy Lee were cooking pierogies when they saw the image resembling Jesus on the side of one. The Lees believed Jesus would want them to sell it. Here's the story.
Well, they say God works in mysterious ways, and a couple in Ohio says he is sending a message through the likeness of Jesus on a pierogi. The couple also says God would want them to sell the sacred dumpling. Oh, you got to be kidding me, on eBay.
The last one I flipped over was Jesus. So I flipped the spatula, and my husband goes, "What?" And I says, "There's Jesus." And he goes, "Oh my God."
It looks like somebody, but I don't know.
Grandmaster Flash.
Grandmaster Flash. Donna Lee has kept the frozen image of what she says is Jesus in a plastic bag inside her freezer since Easter. The minimum bid, $500. Guess what? So far, no bids.
That maybe is tied for least resembling Jesus to me. I don't even see a human, the shape of a face, let alone one that I'm like, that's Jesus's face.
I see like maybe like a Cartoon Network style drawing of like a 90s cool guy with like some glasses on, but I do not see Jesus.
Okay, you see like Zach Morris from Saved by the Bell.
Exactly, yeah. But I just noticed too, like she kept that since Easter, and one of the previous ones was Ash Wednesday. So some of them are happening on like religious holidays, which maybe that adds like, maybe that's why like there's reports on them, because it's like a religious holiday and like there's, oh, Jesus has appeared. So it's not just like a random Friday. It's like a specific holiday for a couple of them. So maybe that's why they got interest. But $500 minimum bid, no bids yet, really made me laugh.
Yeah, but they jumped the gun because we have an update that this did sell successfully on eBay. I'll read you a little bit of a news coverage because it made the news like when they found this and that they were selling it on eBay. And then like a week later, it made the news when they successfully sold it. So I'm just going to read you something here. The bidding is over. A pierogi said to have the image of Jesus Christ on it just sold for $1,775 on the online auction site eBay. The winner of the pierogi was Golden Palace Casino, which has bought or sold some 160 items on eBay, including last fall's purchase of a grilled cheese sandwich with an image of the Virgin Mary on it. But this time, it was a bargain. The pierogi sold for $1,775, where the sandwich they bought a year prior was for $28,000.
What? Oh my god!
I know, like there's a lot of money to be made in this.
There is. I spoke way too soon. I did not expect that. The casino's buying them? Like for what? To display them or?
Well, they said I read an interview with like a marketing director for the casino, and they said they're collecting odd objects like this, and they have plans of somehow showing them off in the casino. But I think more than likely, it's just purely a marketing thing. Like by buying this, they get their name in the newspaper and like, you know, people talking about it. We're now, what is it, like 10, 15 years later, we're now talking about this on a podcast. That $775 that the Golden Palace Casino spent on this was so worth it.
Yeah.
Advertising wise.
To be honest, we're probably the only ones talking about this.
That's true. That's true.
But
at least that week.
Yeah, I mean, it's the gift that keeps on giving, that pierogi, I think.
$28,000 for the grilled cheese, though. I think they were. Someone saw them coming for that one.
Yeah, maybe they opened like a small museum of like weird religious. I don't know. Would people go to that?
Imagine. I don't. Well, you know what? I hope they have security because I have a feeling there'd be some wild people who would show up. To see like the weird religious object museum at the casino. Could you in Ohio? Could you imagine the crew that would show up there?
It's starting to make a bit more sense.
Yes, exactly. So Jesus Christ on food, it's a thing. Those were just a sampling of the stories that I came across of Jesus on food. Jesus doesn't only appear on food, though. We found a whole bunch of stories of Jesus appearing on places. And these are some of my favorite ones. And I think I have your favorite story right around the corner here. Yes. Let's start with a Marian apparition, which is the appearance of the Virgin Mary. This is 2019, so this is pretty recent. Rosenberg, Texas. Believers brought roses, rosaries, and their faith as they prayed in front of a Rosenberg, Texas home where they believe the image of the Virgin Mary appeared under a porch light. When you hear this story, think of the story I told you about Jesus on Tim Hortons. In my hometown, because it's like the exact same effect and it even looks the same. But let's listen to the news coverage of this.
Yeah, Gina, every so often people are passing by this home trying to see the Virgin Mary. There it is. But it is something you definitely can see better with the naked eye. Ave, Ave, Ave Maria. With roses, rosaries, and full of faith. Holy Mary, Mother of God. Devout Catholics gathered at this home on Richmond after they say the image of the Virgin Mary appeared under a porch light February the 12th.
The light is like the Holy Spirit shining over the picture. and giving us the strength.
Betty and Eloy Contreras are the homeowners. They're renting the home now, but when their neighbor told them what she saw, the couple drove by to see for themselves.
I believe she wants us to pray and that we need to unite and pray.
I saw it right away, and all I could, say is wow, because being a skeptic, maybe she's sending us a message, like my wife said. And
they strongly believe her image appeared as a sign of hope, especially now when the Catholic Church is in a global crisis with recent allegations of sex abuse by priests.
A lot of problems are existing in our church right now. Let these victims be heard, and that this can be worked out with the church and the victims.
The folks who see and believe know there are skeptics out there.
Santa Maria, Madre de Dios.
But they ask, even if you see nothing, continue to pray.
Our country is also right now going through a lot of turmoil, and I think we need to be brought together.
I know that the reporter said that it would be easier to see with the naked eye. I can't see anything at all.
I think if you adjust, you'd probably have to adjust the light and mess with it to really see it in the video. But just like what I described at the Tim Hortons in Cape Breton when I grew up, it's almost like a shadow within the light bulb, and the way it's hitting the wall, it kind of the Virgin Mary's often seen with sort of like a veil sort of thing over her. So what you actually see on the wall is kind of that
that was the whole
top
thing.
And
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was just imagine an upside down letter U on the wall.
I could see a hint, but I didn't know that was sort of the entirety of it. Okay.
Well, maybe you're not a true believer.
I think I mustn't be, because I think that was a bit of a stretch, to be honest with you.
Who I want to hear from in this story is the people we heard talking there, who was it's her, and I think she's trying to tell us this. They're the homeowner who was renting it out to tenants.
Right.
The tenants weren't in that story. So imagine you're renting this place and your landlord shows up with the news and a crowd of people singing outside at the light bulb. You would be like, what the hell? I'm not paying rent this month if this is going on.
I'd turn the light off, I think.
Or what happened at Tim Hortons in Cape Breton. I just changed the bulb and just be like, my God, I'm watching Netflix in here.
Or put a frame around it and sort of make the most of it. I don't know.
Charge admission.
Yeah.
In that story, they talked a lot about the problems in the world and the hardships that are coming. I can't help but notice that was in 2019, and I like to catch up with these people and they'd be like, "Did it get any better since then?" Because I don't know. The last 4 years, it's kind of gone downhill fast.
Yeah, they didn't know what was coming, or maybe they did.
I don't know. I think they could have used help from above in ways more than just kind of appearing on the brick. Send cash and affordable housing and affordable food.
Yeah, it's the whole Superman argument, isn't it? You can save a lady from getting a handbag robbed, but the rest of the world's problems.
Yes,
don't see that.
We are about to lighten this up. I present to you, LJ, what I believe to be your favorite instance of a theophany that you don't even know about until right now. Before we get into it, though, I'm not an expert on salons and beauty stuff. You know what a Brazilian is, right? That's a thing in the UK?
Yes.
Okay, not trying to make anyone blush. We just need to get that context here. Because in 2013, Jesus Christ appeared in the hardwood floors of a Halifax beauty salon, just blocks from where I'm sitting now. And of all the places he appeared, it's in the floor of the room they did Brazilian waxing. Listen to this story.
That is not as bad as what I thought you were going to say.
Of Jesus Christ has been found in everything from pierogies to a brick wall in a Cape Breton Tim Hortons. But we think this is a world first. The CBC's Rob Gordon now on the salon floor savior.
Thank you for calling Jay Wells. We're actually closed today, but
stylist Jay Wells is alone in the shop today. Sort of. There's a kind of spirit here. Just past the product and the bangles and baubles. Down the hall a tad.
This is where we do the Brazilians.
Do you mean the country or the event?
The waxing procedure.
The waxing shop has got to be one of the stranger places to find the Son of God. But if you look between the feet, the image of Jesus jumps from the knotty pine.
My eyes immediately went to the floor and did a second take, and then I thought, well, would you look at that? It's Jesus.
It does sort of look like Jesus, doesn't it?
Yes.
Well, it's not exactly Michelangelo, but it's sort of a natural knotty Jesus. What is a knot?
A knot is where the limb actually started on the tree to grow out.
Dougal Press supplied the wood for Wells's floor. Over the years, he's seen many images in the knots.
I've seen cows' faces with the horns, an actual face and nose, the whole thing. And hockey sticks, perfect hockey sticks.
The salon floor Jesus is a first. Still, Wells just can't keep his inner stylist suppressed.
His beard's a bit out of control. He himself could, use a bit of manscaping.
It seems style has changed a bit in 2,000 years.
Oh, man. I think the journalist on that story totally got the assignment. I think they knocked it out of the park.
Oh God, that was so hilarious. I love the way he's like, yeah, I think Jesus needs a bit of manscaping. And the guy, the Canadian wood guy, who was like, I've seen hockey sticks. It's like, of course you have.
Yeah. Well, I think it's great that the journalist, they did that much of an investigation. Not only did they go to the salon to see it, they found out where the wood came from for the floor and interviewed that guy.
That was amazing.
And of course and of course that guy was a character too. I saw cows' heads, the whole thing, hockey sticks, so many hockey sticks. This story was just so ripe with interesting characters, and the salon owner was even funny.
Oh, he was amazing.
What they didn't really lean on is the fact that where the face on the floor appeared, it was exactly where you would if you were a pervert, that is kind of where you would want to be.
That wasn't Jesus, that was someone else.
Yeah, it's just hilarious, and it's knotty pine.
Yeah,
which
I know.
Adds another double entendre there.
God, what a perfect segment.
Yeah,
and I think interviewing the knotty pine guy, it actually kind of gave us an insight that different types of people really do see different things in these shapes. Religious people just see Jesus, and this guy was like hockey sticks, cows, probably things that he sees all the time.
Yeah. It is true. It's different for everybody. I would probably see the waveforms from the podcast I'm editing. I can see heavy breathing,
the chevron patterns.
Yeah, the chevron pattern behind me. That was an amazing story. I have one more, but I want to save that.
Mm-hmm.
At where we're at this point, do you have a favorite? Was it Jay Wells' salon with Jesus on the floor?
It was the salon. You knew before you even finished writing this.
All day I've been I can't wait to play the salon clip. I think that journalist was right. These stories, they're weird, they're silly, they're definitely fun. For some people, as we said at the beginning, it's going to change your life and define your belief and the meaning of life and all this stuff. And if so, great, because I take meaning in things that are probably equally silly. I'm a ravenous collector of 1980s era G.I. Joe action figures, so I'm not going to roll my eyes at people who think they see Jesus in their Cheerios or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you believe what you believe, and if you find some kind of hope and comfort in that, then yeah, good for you. Well, that's what I think.
But there is a dark side. Oh. Yes, some people think they are seeing a religious deity, the Virgin Mary, Jesus. But if those people are appearing in everyday objects and foods, their arch enemy, the devil himself, would also appear. I have one last story that I want to go out with. You've probably seen the story of the possessed or haunted toaster. This is a 1988 news piece in which they interview a woman who claims that her toaster is burning satanic imagery into her toast. And she comes on the news with the toaster, and the action starts then. This may be the best interview in television history.
Right here where it says put one slice, we heard, I am the devil.
What kind of voice did the devil have?
A very low voice, I'd say, sounded like Eli Wallach.
Have you saved any of this satanic toast?
Yes, I did save it because I wanted to be sure that somebody else would see it. Now this one, can you see that, Richard? Satan lives. Just terrible.
Is the toaster still possessed?
We still have trouble off and on with it, yes. Oh, see now it's...
I just hold it down.
It seems to be aware. Oh!
Why have you kept this toaster?
Well, Richard, you know, when all is said and done, it makes good toast.
Oh God, that just slayed me.
Well, I saw it several times, like people sharing it around, I thought it was like from a Saturday Night Live sketch or something like that. But no, that is the true story of a satanic toaster that the owner is willing to keep.
That cannot be real.
Well, it's as real as where this came from originally was a news report about the supermarket tabloids, like the National Enquirer and all that. So it was a video related to one of those stories. So if you believe that Bat Boy is living with Elvis on a UFO, which is a confirmed fact, then you also must believe that the toaster burnt Satan lives into the woman's bread.
Oh my God, I love it. Like just clearly like carved in there with a knife, and then it's so good.
Like she holds up a piece of bread that's completely scorched black, but dug deep into the bread as Satan lives. She's like, "Can you see that, Richard?" I also like when she tries to demonstrate the toaster, she can't get it to like push down. And she's like, "Oh, it seems to be aware of what I'm doing." I could watch that over and over and never get bored of it.
I will watch it over and over when we wrap this call up.
Yeah. So we've been on a roller coaster ride tonight, LJ. When we came up with this idea to go through theophanies, did you think we'd be able to carry an episode? Did you think we would be able to get this many stories that showed the phenomenon in this raw and visceral of a way?
You know, I thought when I did like a preliminary Google search, I was like, there's a lot of tacos, there's a lot of burritos, there's a lot of bread-based products with like scorch marks in that kind of look like people. But you really did find so many cases, and I bet this is just 10% of what you found. And I always trust that you will be able to cover anything in an interesting way, because you always do. So I 100% had faith. I'll probably wake up tomorrow and find like a Jordan face like burned into my toast. Like that's how much I believed that you would be able to pull this up. But this was like honestly so enjoyable. So like thank you for like bringing me along on this weird Jesus journey.
I literally, no one else would come with me. I've asked like 20 people. They're like, no, that sounds so stupid. And then I asked you, and you're
nice
like,
to be the last resort.
Yeah, you're like, I'll try it. What could go wrong?
Hell yeah.
Little did you know I was recording it the whole time.
It's amazing.
We have to do something like this again. When either of us come up with a crazy idea that shouldn't work, let's tag team it.
Oh, 100%. Now I have full confidence that I can present any crazy shit to you and you'll just be like, okay.
I'm not going to judge you. Good. Well, let's put a bow on this. Thank you so much, LJ. This has been a blast, and we'll have to do it again.
Yeah, thanks, Jordan. And yeah, see you very soon, I hope.
I want to thank you for joining LJ and I for this episode of Nighttime. I'm going to start wrapping up this episode, but before I do, let me end with some thanks. First, a huge thanks to LJ for joining us here tonight. If you aren't already listening to her show, Dystopian Simulation, I recommend it. The stories are always great, and who doesn't love a British accent? Next, a big thanks to Monty Datta for contributing the music for this episode. And lastly, but most importantly, a massive thank you goes out to each and every one of you listening to Nighttime, as without your interest and your support, this show would be as pointless as it would be impossible. On the topic of support, let me thank the newest subscribers to the premium feed, Derek, Jordan, and Chris. I appreciate you. And for anyone else who'd like to support the show, you can do it in a variety of ways. First of all, a premium feed subscription costs just a couple dollars a month, and that money will fund the creation of new episodes. But the premium feed will also give you those episodes 2 days early, get them to you ad-free, and give you access to a full back catalog of episodes. If that sounds like something you're interested in, you can go premium right now at nighttimepodcast.com/subscribe. And even if you don't want to go premium, you can still support the show by sharing this episode on social media and letting all your like-minded friends know what you heard here tonight. Your support is very much appreciated. Until next time, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and let me know if you see anything weird, like Jesus on toast.
The Nighttime Podcast is written, hosted, and produced by Jordan Bonaparte.
Hundreds of people believe there's a miracle happening right now inside a home in Membertou. They believe an image of the Virgin Mary has appeared on a bedroom wall. Here's Gary Mansfield.
People gather at a makeshift chapel inside this Membertou home, praying to an image on the wall, an image they believe to be the Virgin Mary.
I believe that a Blessed Virgin Mary has come to instill faith.
A couple of weeks ago, Janice Paul says a silhouette of the Virgin Mary appeared in her cousin's home, next to her grandfather's photo. He was a devoted Catholic, and Paul thinks he's responsible for the nearby image. Since then, hundreds of people have flocked to see the image and to pray.
It's a grace to be here to witness this, and I have no skepticism at all. I totally believe she's here and she's appearing here, like I said, for the world, for everyone.
Our churches are not only in Membertou, but all over, are under danger of closing down, and people are not as faithful as they used to be.
With prayer beads in hand, people here say they will continue to visit as long as the image lasts.
I believe that she's the Blessed Mother Virgin, and I think she'll stay as long as she feels she's needed.
I think the bottom line is the joy that it's bringing. Honestly, I do.